Good evening, everybody. I'm Ranger Jellydoughnut. There's Ranger Bacon. We'll be your guides today. I want to start. This is an online training. I want to tell you a little bit about how I got here because I am the least likely person to lead this session because I have and had no idea what I was doing. And I can tell you that if any of you want to do this, I'm going to show you how to do this because it is super low tech and super easy. I have been the Loveburn Ranger lead for, the last 4 years. The first year I was asked to join because I was the only ranger and still am the only ranger that lives in Black Rock Ranger rather, that lives in Miami, Florida. And apparently the then ranger lead rage quit and said, I'm not doing this anymore, and walked out. And they said, hey, Jellydoughnut, you're a ranger. You know how to do this. Go ahead and take over the ranger program. Now, I had just become a ranger a year before, a Black Rock Ranger. And no, I had no idea how to do this. And so the first thing I did was reached out and asked for help. And I said, well, don't we have a manual? Do we have people that know what they're doing? And they said, no, you'll figure it out, Jellydoughnut. We believe in you. And so I reached out to a group called the Regional Ranger Network. And I see Cane Toad here, who's with me on that team. You want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. They got me in touch with some ranger leads for other burns, including Flipside and some others around the country. And they gave me copies of manuals that they had been using and forms, and kind of showed how we at local events sign people in and sign people out, and really was a valuable resource. And so if any of you are ranger leads at your events and you feel a bit overwhelmed, folks like me and Cane Toad and many others, we're here for you. We're here to help you. I know a lot of the Burning Man official materials are specifically for Burning Man, but the other regional events tend to be a lot more open and sharing with their materials and their forms and their processes, and we're here to help you. When I started, our event was only about 1,200 people. We've now grown to over 4,000 people. And so there's been a lot of growing pains. And the first pain and the first problem that I had as a ranger lead was training. Our event is only 4 days long. And most people that come to the event, something like 70, 80% of them don't come from South Florida. They come from other states. And so the challenge is if they fly in on a Thursday or Friday, how do I train them for an event that's only 3 days long? Are they not going to, by the time they come and set up camp and sign up for training, it was impossible to train enough rangers for a several thousand person event. And so the online training came out of a need. There was no way to train enough rangers for me to manage the event safely without doing it before. I tried traveling to different communities where I knew we had a lot of rangers and doing trainings the week before the event, but it became an impossible task. And so I don't know how to do, I don't know if you all have background in video editing. I have zero. And I don't have an Apple computer. I don't have really intuitive software. But what I did have was this very iPhone 7. And I found a binder clip. And I took my binder clip and I put it on the bottom of my phone. And with that binder clip, I don't know if you can see, it stands up on the desk. But it's too low because, as you can see, it's facing my chest. So I literally took a shoebox and balanced it on a shoebox, this weird apparatus, and hit play record with a video facing front so I could see myself. And that's how I did the training. I took these manuals that other people gave me, and I kind of put them in sections, and I just talked into the camera. I didn't know how to clip them together. So I literally just recorded it, and each video is like 2 or 3 minutes for each section. And then I strung them together through an online service called Udemy. That program, I have, by a show of hands or wigglies, Has anyone seen that or gone through it before? So a few of you have. There are problems with it. And I have a list of criticisms of the program. And if you go through it, I want more criticisms because I want to make it better. It's several years old. It has glitches and quirks, but it works. Thousands of rangers have now, because I've made it available for free for anyone that wants to use it. And if any of you want to use it, I will give you the passcode. I'll email you the videos for you to change and put your own face on it now, and whatever you want to do. I give it, it's something that I've gifted to the community long ago. And I'm happy to share it. Thousands of people have taken it and it's out of date. Where I am now is I want to reach out to the rest of the community and say, let's make one together. Let's redo it, fix the problems with that. And there's some technology and some other problems. And let's use it to kind of use benchmarking for best practices. I think if we create a group where we have the different ranger leads from all the different events, look one at a time and say, okay, this one's on radio training. This bit is on consent. This bit is on must reports. And we say, okay, how do we, all of our events do it differently? And let's put our heads together and make a better one. And then we can have one that we can all be proud of. There's a lot better technology out there than there was when I made this. There are a lot better tools where we can do quizzes and reporting, which this tool doesn't have. I think during this off year, we can use this as an opportunity to improve it and to make it better. So that's really how I came up with it. The end result, just so you know, is, and I know I'll be the first to admit it's not a perfect tool because I had no idea what I was doing. But it is a tool and it works. And I think there's a portion of training that can be taught in advance online. I think at least what I've learned is there's a certain amount of training that can't happen online, that you really have to be there and do face-to-face. And so maybe it's time to start thinking about how we can separate those two and be sensitive to everyone's on-playa time as well. I want to introduce Ranger Bacon. He recently took the course and helped me ranger at the Loveburn, I'd say last year, but last year meaning 2020, which is the last time we did the Loveburn. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with the training and the pros and the cons of it?
Sure. And if, Gio, I can see you, let me know if my audio breaks up. My internet connection may not be perfect, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay, so far so good.
Awesome. Hey, I cannot believe the story you just told about how you shot those videos. They look a lot better than I captured it on my cell phone and I can't edit, so I ran it straight through. Really, yeah, you did a good job, Jellydoughnut. It was a really, I enjoyed that training mechanism because you know, as Brett said, it cleaned up I didn't have to schedule training at a short event. So I was arriving from Texas, and my God, Florida is a long state. And got in and got set up and all that, and I didn't have to try to shoehorn in or try to juggle training along with getting the camp settled and all that good stuff. I also like, there's a certain amount, you go to ranger training, there's a certain amount of reading that happens, where there's a certain amount of the trainer is communicating the policy to the prospective rangers. And yeah, you can say, go read the manual before time. One of the cool things about Udemy is it had quizzes. It's kind of like taking, if anyone's ever taken defensive driving online. They show you a skit and then they ask, well, what color shirt was the driver wearing? You could do the same in Loveburn's case. The quizzes were asking questions about the material presented. So you could use that as that online quizzing mechanism, as did the participant actually watch the video. And then if you have a a gathering where we do end up getting together live, you can spend more time on practice and more time on the interactions and this kind of the social training that happens where the old timer, the veterans, communicate with the prospective rangers. And I guess that is one thing that I need to say is I took this training, for the 2020 burn after having been a ranger for 6 years. So it was, this was as a veteran, I was taking the local training. It might be a little bit different for a newcomer, but I think the blend of the horizons are just wide open with what you could do with a little bit of online, a little bit of video, and then followed up by by the in-person stuff if you ever did it. One of the things that Loveburn did is they really tried to make sure that new rangers, I think I walked 3 ranger shifts with a brand new shiny penny every time. So they try to link up the new folks with veterans when they do the cruise direction. And with that, I'm going to stop talking.
So I think that's a good intro. Sparky, you have a question?
Earlier you were talking about tools and building better tools. For the fire teams, we've been exploring a tool called Fire Academy 1, and talking to the vendor, the modules that you can build your own, and they don't have to be fire related. So this tool, if we convince Burning Man to help us invest in it, it's not very expensive. You could build Ranger, a whole Ranger course and have all your modules so people can do online stuff first if you want, read and a quiz. It even lets the lead know the progress of the individuals. So, if I ask Ranger Bacon to study XYZ prior to the video and then the Zoom meeting, I can see if Bacon did his homework. So it's pretty interesting tool. We could talk later offline, but you got some options there that I've been making some good way with getting Burning Man interested through their education group.
So Burning Man has a new platform where they're unveiling. They've already started, but it's going to come out to different groups where they're going to be offering education platforms. It's something that we as regional folks want to decide whether we want to adopt the Burning Man platform or just make our own. My inclination is, a lot of the Burning Man stuff they keep in the Burning Man community. And I kind of like the idea that, honestly, that this is a training program that we can share with sanctioned and non-sanctioned events and just to help raise the bar across the world. Because this program has now been used in several burns, in virtual burns, and in international burns. And between you and me, I don't think it's great. It's sufficient, but it can be improved. And I'd like to improve it with the collaboration of leads from around the world. So it's something that doesn't come from me and my crappy iPhone, but rather from the folks on the ground around the country who are managing burns, because managing the ranger program for a burn that's 100 people versus 1,000 people versus 4,000 people is very different. And so we need to decide if we're going to build one program, we've got to come up with some best practices that make sense so that it is appropriate for all size burns. I have to deal with issues like water and drowning and sand and heat stroke, whereas other burns might have to deal with issues of snow and freezing. But I don't think it takes that much to cover all those things. And you'd be surprised in a video format with some quizzes how much material you can go through in an hour. Any other questions? Thoughts about other trainings, things that can only happen in person versus online? Pixel.
Hey, so I love this whole idea of what you're working on. I was supposed to be tranquility-based lead for the first time for 2020 and didn't get the chance, obviously. But, talking with some other sanctuary leads and whatnot, we were trying to figure out about doing online trainings, and we were coming up with everyone has different needs at different burns. You're talking about rangering and having different things going on like snow or water, whatever it may be. And we were just kind of tossing the idea around of having like a central training thing that covers like the main points, but then having like individual modules. So some of the burns I go to, like alchemy or to the moon. So you do your main training and then you also do the 10-minute training that's specifically for alchemy or specifically for to the moon. So I don't know if that's like something that could possibly be integrated as well, because then that can just be thrown up as one extra item, like for somebody to complete for their own burn,
100%. I mean, it can even be as simple as a Google Doc with links to the videos that are required for a specific event. Or it can be something that's more sophisticated with, if we, can get some money behind it, where it can be an actual organized program that you can select. I think the process and the value that we can create here is by coming and building it together. So what we've essentially done is created some benchmarks, some best practices around the country and the world. And I think the process of building it and working together is what's going to make this a better program. But
Absolutely.
I love that idea. That's great.
Yeah, I'm very excited about what you're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome to be a part of it. Randy.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Jellydoughnut, I've been through your program twice. Thought you did a very good job. I think one thing that we can do is add some role playing. There are situations where you want to get talking to other people, or you want to give the person taking the course an opportunity to speak somehow. And I think that you can set up role playing in the programs, either with somebody that's actually there, or you can like stop things and give the person an opportunity to speak about whatever they're going to do, and then let the program go on.
That's a great idea. For those of you that have been through the Black Rock Ranger training, a good portion of it is actual role-playing scenarios. And that's something that's difficult to do on video, but can be done on a remote platform. And maybe that's the idea. Maybe when we say some of it should be done in person and some of it can be done in advance, maybe it can be done. We can, create a live training, a module as part of that before each event. I mean, there are options here, but I don't have all the answers. What I have is time and willingness and a little bit of experience. But my experience is kind of confined to Loveburn. That's one of the reasons why I think we can benefit from each other's participation. Ranger Cobalt.
Actually, Bacon has had his hand up for quite a while. Do you want to go with him first?
Oh, Ranger Bacon.
Sorry.
He's a co-host. You don't need your hand up. You just cut me off and start talking, please.
It's all good. Hey, one of the unique Loveburn things that Jellydoughnut didn't mention was the alligator pond. And allegedly, yes, there are. I did not see them, but there are alligators in the center of the event. But the point that I wanted to raise is, Jellydoughnut, you say you're not didn't do a whole lot of editing in that, but if you found someone who does, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks in the community that can, you've gone and created, that initial step function of creating the 2 hours worth of video training. You could now, that's a basis for something that could live and grow, and you could shoot some anecdotes with actors acting out one of the situations, and kind of make that a living, growing thing as you get feedback and as you come up with new situations. The video is a resource that could be leveraged in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're up.
Yay. Yeah, so some of you may know this already, but we're looking at for the the potential burn this year, obviously not being able to do in-person trainings. And so we actually had created it for last year, was the online training that, as you said, covers all the wordy stuff that we do in the training. So we've really tried to take that out of the in-person training. And we are discussing doing online only for vets, which would be awesome for vets. But we've been discussing back and forth, what do we do about the new people? And also for those newer rangers, say they've only worked one shift on Playa and they became a ranger 2 years ago. And so they're essentially new. We threw around the idea of maybe using Zello and doing scenarios with Zello. So that's an option. Or doing some of these role playing, as we said, either in a Zoom situation or online quizzy, whatever. But getting that in person is still really important. So that's just kind of things that we've been throwing around and looking at. What we found is that the online training situation that Burning Man is offering doesn't work with our clubhouse, unfortunately. And so you guys would probably have different situations, smaller burns. You may not need some of the technology that we do, but we've had to look elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of good things in that learning. Forget what it's called, the program that they have.
Is that the Kindling?
No,
it's the other one.
It's the other one, yeah.
and Cobalt is
rolling out.
What?
The one that they are rolling out slowly. Yeah.
Cobalt is not introducing herself properly, so I will do it for you. Cobalt is one of the training leaders of the Black Rock Rangers. So really, when it comes to training rangers, no one speaks with more authority than Cobalt does.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
No one here.
Well, I'm really, really glad to be hearing all these different stories and points of view. I'm really hoping this is going to kind of segue into the Ranger Roundtable tomorrow night, which I will be hosting. We are going to continue this conversation about online Ranger training. I'm so happy that Bacon and Jellydoughnut both agreed to come and talk about it, because it's good to have a little bit of a background. And I was really curious because for me personally, moving training online has been a subject that has been a bone of contention sometimes with other trainers who, you have this, the school of thought where, it needs to all be on, in person. And then you have, rangers who live in Timbuktu and they can't come to in-person training. So what do you do for that? So I'm really glad to hear all those different perspectives being considered. So I would, unless there's any other questions, I just see one from Peter Pan, so we'll do that one. And then, okay. Peter Pan, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm keeping myself muted because I have a puppy and he's loud. I know over this past year we've all spent more time on Zoom than we want to. I've taken some of our local groups that we've done that are kink groups and rope groups and brought them online, just doing Zoom workshops. It doesn't seem that would be a very difficult thing to say, okay, August 17th, instead of the training being down in Loveland, Florida, it's going to be on Zoom, because then you can have the interactions with the scenarios, which again, I think as far as I've taken the Black Rock training and been out the Playa, done it a few years as well. And that is really the best part of the training, because that is where you can read whatever you want, but until someone presents you with a scenario, you respond and see how you can respond better, because you can always respond better. What are the impediments to doing something as a virtual training session? Breaking out into breakout rooms with, 4 or 5 people, just as you would break out into, training with your partner and stuff. What are the impediments that you guys see?
If you're asking me, there are no impediments to doing that, but I think a lot of ranger training has to do with how you approach someone, how you stand, what your proximity is, what your volume is, what your body language is. It's more than just information that you can do on Zoom. And so I think no matter what you do, if you want to truly communicate the culture of rangering, even though I'm a big supporter of the online training, I don't think it's sufficient. As you heard Ranger Bacon say, for me, part of my supplement is to recruit many Black Rock Rangers to come work the love burn with me, and I always pair them with the newbies, because I think that's really the only way you can get that culture through, communicate that culture of feedback, and ultimately produce better rangers out of it. Is it better with Zoom? I think it's certainly better than if it were just talking at people. But we have to decide. I don't want to be the one to say what's right and what's wrong. What I can identify are the pros and the cons, and I want to get the leadership of different burns together, and let's go ahead and come up with what we think is the best practices. Because what I think is not always necessarily the best, as many of my rangers will tell you.